6:14 a.m. local time over the Strait of Hormuz. The first thing that cuts through the cockpit is the warning tone. Sharp, steady, impossible to ignore. Inside a U.S. Navy F/A 18E Super Hornet, the radar warning receiver lights up on the left display. One contact has gone active off the starboard side. Then another symbol appears, high to the left, moving fast and dropping into the picture with purpose. What began as a routine patrol over one of the most tightly watched waterways in the world changes in less than 3 seconds. The pilot does not snap the stick. He does not break formation in a panic. He waits until the picture makes sense, then keys the mic. Raven 1, Spike, 2 contacts, bearing 085 and 310. His voice is calm even, professional. Below him, the Strait of Hormuz is already alive. Tankers move slowly through the shipping lanes. White trails cut across the blue water behind them. The coastline sits blurred in the early morning haze. But none of that matters now. At 23,000 feet, with 2 fast movers closing from opposite directions, the sky suddenly feels much smaller. On the tactical display, the geometry tightens. One aircraft is dropping in from the north, nose pointed across the Hornet's flight path. The second is climbing slightly off the right rear quarter, matching speed and holding just beyond the comfortable margin. This is not random traffic. This is not a loose intercept. This is deliberate positioning. Raven 1, Magic. Confirmed 2 Iranian fighters airborne from Bandar Abbas, possible F-14S. Stand by. The pilot's right hand stays steady on the throttle. His left thumb moves to the sensor control switch. Radar range compresses. The symbols sharpen. The first return looks broad, older in profile than the modern jets usually seen in the region. Twin tails, large wing area, heavy nose signature. Then the controller comes back. Raven 1, Magic confirmed. 2 Iranian F-14 Tomcats. Both tracking your position. No change in tone, no added drama, just the facts. The pilot checks fuel. Good. Altitude. Stable. Heading. On track. He glances once toward the water, then back to the instruments. The Tomcat, high on the left, is now descending through 26,000 feet. The second has shifted closer on the right side. Still low, still patient, still building the box. He switches to guard frequency. Iranian fighters, this is U.S. Navy aircraft operating in international airspace. Maintain safe separation. No response. The lead Tomcat continues inward. Its nose slides across the Hornet's forward quarter. Not close enough to force an immediate move, but close enough to send a clear message. The second fighter remains offset, using distance like leverage. Together, they are doing exactly what the pilot understood the moment the second contact appeared. One creates pressure from the front. The other waits behind, shaping the space. Magic, Raven 1. No response on guard. They are maneuvering to contain. Raven 1, copy. Hold present course. Do not escalate. Support is moving. That last line stays in the cockpit. Support is moving. Not here, not yet. The pilot tilts his helmet slightly, tracking the lead Tomcat through the canopy. Even from this distance, the aircraft is unmistakable. Variable sweep wings, broad fuselage, long nose. A machine built for range, radar reach, and presence. Its paint looks worn by heat and salt air, but its posture is clear. The jet banks just enough to show its profile, then steadies almost level with the Hornet before drifting ahead again. Then the second Tomcat rises closer from below starboard. That changes everything. Now the American pilot can feel the box forming, not just on the screen, but in the sky around him. One fighter ahead and left, one fighter behind and right. Not close enough for contact, not far enough for comfort. Every option begins to narrow. Climb, and he exposes himself to the high fighter. Drop, and he gives away energy to the low one. Turn too hard, and the intercept becomes something much bigger than a routine patrol. He checks system status. Safe. Countermeasures. Ready. Radar. Locked on the picture. Both contacts are fully committed to the same pattern now. The Tomcat low on the right creeps inward another half mile. The one ahead eases speed just enough to sit near the edge of the Hornet's path. This is no casual escort. This is pressure. Raven 1, Magic. Additional picture clean for now. Nearest friendly support still minutes out. Minutes can feel very different over the Strait of Hormuz. With 2 interceptors tightening around a single Navy jet, minutes can stretch into something much longer. The pilot keys the mic again. Iranian fighters, maintain separation. You are conducting an unsafe intercept. Still nothing. Only the steady sound of air moving over the canopy. Only the low rumble of the engines remains. Only the steady breathing of a pilot who understands that panic can end a flight faster than any weapon system. The lead F-14 slides across again. This time it is closer. Close enough to demand a visual correction. Not a hard maneuver, not yet. But close enough that the Hornet pilot has to adjust his nose by a fraction to keep the spacing clean. From outside the cockpit, the movement would barely be noticeable. Inside, it means something very different. The Tomcats have started controlling the geometry. The American pilot does not chase. He does not react emotionally. He holds his line, absorbs the pressure, and waits for the rest of the Navy to arrive in the picture. Then the low-right Tomcat accelerates. Not aggressively, not dramatically. Just enough to move forward into the Hornet's blind quarter. And for the first time since the warning tone began, the pilot understands exactly what this is. Not a flyby, not a display. A coordinated intercept designed to close him in over the narrowest stretch of water in the Gulf. "Magic, Raven 1, he says, still calm, still measured, eyes shifting from display to sky and back again. "They're boxing me." Ahead of him, the first F-14 begins another slow turn across his nose. 6:16 a.m. local time. Over the Strait of Hormuz, the sky tightens again. The first Iranian F-14 rolls shallow across the Hornet's nose. Not fast enough to look like a full engagement profile, not wide enough to be dismissed as routine spacing. It is measured pressure, controlled, intentional. The second Tomcat, the one that had been creeping forward from the American jet's low right quarter, now climbs higher and moves closer, turning the box from an idea on a screen into something real in the air. Inside the cockpit of the U.S. Navy Super Hornet, the pilot wastes no movement. He scans left, he scans right, he checks closure rate, relative altitude, heading drift. Then he speaks. "Magic, Raven 1. Lead contact crossing nose. Wing contact tightening starboard side. Range is collapsing." The reply comes back at once. "Raven 1, magic. Copy all. Hold discipline, hold altitude. Support remains inbound." Hold discipline. That is the whole game now. Below, the strait is bright and crowded. Oil tankers move through the traffic lanes in slow, predictable lines. Pilot boats and patrol craft leave thin white trails near the coast. Farther north, haze over the Iranian shoreline turns the mountains into a gray wall. But up here, above the choke point, nothing feels stable. Two F-14s have turned open sky into a narrow corridor, and the American pilot is flying through the center of it. The lead Tomcat completes its pass and settles off the Hornet's left front quarter. Too close to ignore. Too far to justify a hard defensive move. Its variable sweep wings sit partially extended. Its broad fuselage holds steady in the morning light. The aircraft may be old, but the flying is not. Whoever is in that cockpit knows exactly how to apply pressure without crossing the line that would force an immediate response. The second Tomcat climbs another few hundred feet and inches forward on the Hornet's right side. Now both fighters are visible with quick turns of the pilot's head. That is not random. That is what trained intercept crews do when they want to shape another pilot's choices 1 second at a time. The American pilot keys the guard frequency again. "Iranian fighters, this is U.S. Navy aircraft operating in international airspace. You are conducting an unsafe intercept. Increase separation now." Nothing. No acknowledgement, no warning, no challenge call, only silence. Then the lead Tomcat eases inward again. Not enough to force an emergency move. Not enough to make the situation obvious to anyone watching from far away, but enough to change the feeling inside the cockpit. Enough to make every next decision more costly. "Raven 1, magic. We show lead contact reducing offset. Your right side contact is matching speed." The pilot checks the right display. The numbers confirm what his eyes already know. The second F-14 is no longer just following. It is pacing him almost perfectly, holding a position where it can react to any turn, climb, or descent he chooses. That is the trap. Turn left and he moves toward the lead Tomcat. Turn right and the wing aircraft gains the inside angle. Climb and the fighter high to the left controls the next move. Drop lower and he gives away energy with the second Tomcat already positioned to follow. The Hornet stays level, 23,000 feet, steady, controlled. The pilot adjusts the radar scale. The sweep refreshes. Both F-14s remain in the same tight pattern. "Magic, Raven 1, they're holding a bracket." "Raven 1, magic, affirm, you are not cleared to provoke." "Maintain current posture, not cleared to provoke." That means no sharp turn-in. No strong radar response of his own unless the situation changes. No move that could be clipped, edited, and pushed out of context by someone watching from the ground. so he does the hardest thing a fighter pilot can do under pressure. He stays patient. The lead Tomcat banks just enough to flash the top of its wings, then settles back toward the Hornet's forward quarter. Almost at the same moment, the F-14 on the right creeps even closer. Close enough now that the American pilot feels that deep, automatic reaction start to rise. Not fear, training. The part of the mind that knows another aircraft should not be sitting there. Raven 1 Magic. We're picking up intermittent radar sweeps from the northern contact. The pilot's eyes snap to the threat display. A stronger pulse, then another. Not a steady targeting track. Not yet. But no longer quiet observation either. The lead Tomcat is reaching harder with its radar now. Measuring, testing, pressing. He brings his electronic countermeasures to standby. Not transmitting, not escalating, just ready. The second Tomcat rises nearly level with the Hornet's canopy line off the right side, then holds there for 2 long seconds. Long enough to be seen, long enough to be understood. It is close enough now for the pilot to make out the dark framing of the Iranian jet's canopy and the shape of its nose lifting slightly in the humid morning air. This is not accidental spacing. This is choreography. And for the first time, the American pilot has to make a tiny correction with his right hand. Just a measured touch on the stick to preserve clean separation from the forward fighter without giving up the center of the bracket. The Tomcats see it. That is why they are here. To draw one correction from him, then another, until the U.S. Navy jet is no longer flying its route, but theirs. Magic, Raven 1. They got one move out of me. Copy, Raven 1. Stay composed. Friendly assets now airborne. Airborne. Not on station. Not yet. The lead Tomcat suddenly drops half a degree lower and cuts closer across the Hornet's projected line. At the same time, the F-14 on the right advances just enough to crowd the blind quarter again. The bracket tightens. The sea flashes below. The cockpit remains calm. Then the warning receiver chirps harder than before. Short, sharp, focused. The American pilot says nothing for 1 beat. Then he keys the mic. Magic. Possible hard track attempt. 6:18 a.m. local time. The first real change does not come from the American pilot. It appears behind the encounter. On the Super Hornet's tactical display, 2 new blue tracks light up near the far edge of the picture. Still distant, still outside the visual scene, but moving fast and clean from the southwest, friendly, controlled, closing. Somewhere beyond the canopy glass, the wider U.S. Navy network is finally entering the picture. Inside the jet, the pilot stays focused on what is directly in front of him. The warning tone that had sharpened seconds earlier does not build into a full targeting signal. It pulses once, then twice, then fades back into something lower and less committed. That matters. It means the lead Tomcat is probing, not committing. Testing nerves, not crossing the final line. Raven 1, Magic. Friendly section is now airborne and vectoring. Time to picture collapse. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Still too long inside a bracket like this. The lead F-14 remains left and forward, its broad nose angled just enough to suggest another crossing pass. The winged Tomcat stays off the Hornet's right side, close enough to crowd the blind quarter, far enough to deny a clean reason for a stronger response. The trap is still there. But for the first time since the intercept began, the American pilot has something he did not have before. Time is starting to work for him. Not much, just enough. He glances down, checks energy, then looks back outside. Below, the sea flashes in the morning sun. Tankers continue through the strait, unaware of the geometry unfolding above them. Up here, every 100 feet and every knot matters more than the politics that brought these aircraft into the same sky. Then the pilot makes his first deliberate move of the encounter. Not a brake turn, not a climb, not an escape, just a clean, controlled reduction in speed, subtle enough to look procedural, precise enough to disturb the bracket. The effect is immediate. The lead Tomcat, which had been timing another crossing move, drifts a fraction farther ahead than planned. The F-14 on the right, still trying to hold the Hornet's blind quarter, slides too far forward relative to the American jet's wing line. For 1 second, the symmetry breaks. That is the only opening the Hornet pilot needs. He banks left, barely, just enough to keep the lead fighter honest and deny the right side Tomcat the perfect rear offset it has been building for the last 2 minutes. Not aggressive, not provocative, just disciplined geometry. Magic Raven 1, adjusting for separation. Copy, good correction, maintain it. The lead Tomcat reacts first, its nose lifts slightly. The wings shift. The pilot inside is no longer dictating the picture. He is trying to recover it. That change is small, but it is real. For the first time in the encounter, the Iranian lead is responding instead of shaping. The second Tomcat does not like it either. It adds power, trying to reclaim the Hornet's right rear quarter before the window closes. That move tells the American pilot everything. The two F-14s are coordinated, but not perfect. They need clean geometry to keep the pressure on. Disturb that geometry by even a little, and they have to work harder than they want to. And when they work harder, they become easier to read. Magic, the pilot says, eyes still outside. Right side Tomcat is adding power. Affirmative, we see it. Continue present correction. Friendly section now, 90 seconds out. 90 seconds. Now the bracket is no longer just a test of discipline. It is a countdown. The lead F-14 cuts back in, but not as cleanly as before. It expected the Hornet to remain exactly where it was. Instead, it finds a jet that has moved just enough to spoil the script without breaking the rules. The crossing angle is shallower now, less dominant, more cautious. The American pilot keeps his hands calm. No wasted movement, no emotional correction. Just steady pressure, steady scanning, steady breathing. The threat receiver flickers again as the Tomcat ahead reaches with radar one more time. But now that signal is being watched by more than one aircraft, more than one sensor, more than one crew. What looked moments earlier like two Iranian fighters pressing a lone Navy jet is turning into something else. A recorded event, a tracked event. A very visible problem for anyone who pushes too far. Then the right side Tomcat rises closer again, trying one last time to rebuild the pressure lane. The Hornet pilot catches it in his peripheral vision and answers not with a sharp turn, but with altitude. 200 feet, smooth, controlled, enough to force the Iranian jet to choose. Climb with him and reveal more of its position, or stay low and lose the angle. It stays low. Another piece of the box comes apart. Magic Raven 1. Right side contact losing bracket. Copy Raven 1. Friendly section 30 seconds. Now the lead Tomcat has a choice. Push harder with support almost on scene, or back away before the picture turns against him. For 2 long seconds, it does neither. It hangs ahead and left, wings broad in the light. Still close, still inside the scene. Still trying to hold the moment together by presence alone. Then a new voice enters the radio. Raven 1, Sabre 2, we have your picture, coming in high. The effect is immediate. The lead F-14 turns its nose slightly away from the Hornet. Not much, just enough to notice. The second Tomcat, the one that worked so hard to own the right side, checks outward by half a mile, as if suddenly aware that the sky behind the American jet no longer belongs to Iran alone. The Hornet pilot does not chase either aircraft. That is not his job. His job is to hold center, preserve control, and let the pressure shift back onto the crews who tried to build the box around him. For the first time since 6/14, the American aircraft is no longer being contained. Now, the Tomcats are being counted, and ahead of him, the lead Iranian fighter makes one more turn back toward the Hornet. Sharper than before, lower than before, closer than anything it has attempted yet. 6:19 a.m. local time. Over the Strait of Hormuz, the lead Tomcat comes back with purpose. Not reckless, not sloppy, deliberate. Its nose drops just enough to build closure, then swings across the Super Hornet's forward line at a distance that no longer feels like routine intercept spacing. Inside the U.S. Navy cockpit, the pilot sees the move forming half a second before it becomes critical. The Iranian fighter is no longer only shaping the airspace, it is compressing it. Magic Raven 1, lead contact turning back in. The reply comes instantly. Raven 1, Magic, copy. Sabre flight is entering the picture now. You are clear to protect separation if required. That changes the frame. Not the emotion, not the discipline, just the line. The Hornet pilot keeps his hands low and quiet on the controls. There is no instant reaction, no panicked pull on the stick, no dramatic call over the radio. The pilot watches the Tomcat's nose angle, wing position, and closure rate. The second F-14 is still out to the right, farther away than before, but not out of the picture. Still part of the problem. Still close enough to matter if the lead jet forces one wrong move. The Tomcat drops lower, closer. For 1/10 second, its projected path and the Hornet's projected path begin to squeeze toward the same piece of sky. That is enough. The American pilot brakes left. Hard, clean, controlled. The pressure hits instantly, driving him into the seat as the Super Hornet cuts away from the Tomcat's crossing line. The jet rolls and pulls with the kind of disciplined force fighter pilots train for again and again. Not for drama, for the exact moment when another pilot's risky choice becomes your problem. The horizon tilts. Blue water flashes across the canopy. The warning receiver chirps again as the Tomcat's radar picture struggles to follow the sudden movement. No release tone, no launch indication. But the spacing has closed too far to trust even another half second. Raven 1, defensive left, the pilot calls, his voice tight but steady. Copy defensive left, Magic answers. Sabre 2 high cover, Sabre 3 east side. Now the larger U.S. Navy picture finally locks into place. One friendly fighter is high behind the encounter, strong enough to appear clearly on every tactical display in the area. Another is sweeping into the eastern side of the geometry, cutting off the lane the Iranian section had been using to keep the bracket alive. The Super Hornet is no longer handling this alone. It is now at the center of a full response. But first, it has to get through the next few seconds. The lead Tomcat overshoots. Not by much, just enough. Its pilot had counted on the Hornet absorbing one more pressure pass, one more silent cut across the nose, one more inch of intimidation. Instead, the American jet moved decisively and forced the Iranian fighter through the front of the encounter. That changes everything. Now the Tomcat is ahead, fast, slightly low, and no longer controlling the merge. The Hornet pilot unloads just enough to keep his energy, then brings the jet back level. The second F-14, the one that had been trying to rebuild position from the right, hesitates. Even on the display, that hesitation is visible. Its track bends outward for a moment, as if the pilot inside is recalculating whether this is still a controlled intercept or something much harder to contain. Magic, Raven 1. Lead contact overshot. Wingman F-14 is drifting east. Copy. Maintain discipline. Friendly cover is on top of both contacts. The radio goes quiet for 2 beats. No one fills the silence. No one wastes words. Inside the cockpit, the pilot takes one hard breath through the mask, then resets his scan. Lead Tomcat forward, second Tomcat right and widening. Friendly high cover entering from the southwest, sea traffic far below. No surface factor. Fuel still good, jet still clean, controls still sharp. Then the lead F-14 makes another move. It pitches up, banks sharply, and for a split second turns back toward the Hornet, as if considering one more hard pass. Not a full engagement, not a weapons profile, just another attempt to prove it still controls the sky. But the timing is gone now. The high U.S. fighter is already there. Not close enough for a visual merge, but close enough that every radar scope in the area now shows one clear fact. The lone Navy jet is not alone anymore. Sabre 2, tally lead Tomcat, holding high right. There is no swagger in the voice, just position, presence, authority. That is enough. The lead F-14 gives up the turn. Its nose swings away, not all at once, but in stages. First a slight drift north, then more bank, then power. The move is obvious to everyone watching the picture. It is no longer pressing, it is leaving. The second Tomcat follows 2 seconds later. Not in a rush, not out of control, just disengaging in the only professional way left. Outward, separate, without one last reckless move. Magic, Raven 1, both contacts turning away. Affirmative, both contacts cold, north-northeast. The Hornet pilot does not chase, neither do the support fighters, and that matters. This is not about chasing a score or creating a headline. It is about making it through the intercept, holding the line, and denying the other side the chance to turn a pressure move into a victory clip. Below, the Strait of Hormuz looks almost unchanged. Tankers keep moving, wakes keep spreading. The water remains narrow, blue, and deceptively calm. But up here, in the thin layer of sky where seconds can decide everything, the moment has already burned itself into memory. One Tomcat came back too hard. One Navy pilot responded exactly right. And one tense intercept just became a recorded withdrawal. Still, the American pilot keeps his eyes outside, because over Hormuz, a contact turning away does not mean the contact is gone. Then magic comes back over the radio. Raven 1, stay sharp. One contact is slowing. Possible re-entry. 6:21 a.m. local time. Over the Strait of Hormuz. The confrontation is no longer directly in front of the Super Hornet. Now it lives in the full tactical picture. The American pilot holds altitude, steady and controlled, eyes moving from canopy to display and back again. The 2 Iranian F-14s are no longer pressing from opposite sides. Their tracks have opened north-northeast, wider now, colder now, but still close enough to matter. Over Hormuz, distance can disappear quickly. A disengagement is not the same as safety. It is only the end of one decision and the beginning of the next. Magic, Raven 1. I've got both contacts drifting cold. Copy, Raven 1. Maintain present heading. Sabre flight remains with you. The voice is calm. So is the cockpit. And that matters because the most dangerous part of an intercept is not always the closest pass. Sometimes it is the moment after, when the body starts to come down from the rush and the pilot has to force his mind back into procedure. Check the jet, check the airspace, check the fuel, check the picture. No assumptions, no shortcuts. The Hornet pilot runs through it in order. Engine response normal, flight controls clean, fuel state good, countermeasures accounted for. No warnings, no damage indications, no secondary concerns. Outside, the morning sky over the strait looks almost indifferent. Sunlight breaks across the Gulf in flashes of silver. Tankers continue their slow movement through one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. From this altitude, the commercial traffic below seems impossibly calm, as if none of it noticed how close the air above had come to crossing into something far more serious. But the data noticed. The radar picture noticed. Every sweep, every closure rate, every bracket angle, every silent approach from the Iranian section is already being saved, marked and reviewed by people far beyond this cockpit. What lasted only minutes in open sky will live much longer on tactical playback. That is the part outsiders rarely see. Two F-14 Tomcats had tried to turn one Navy jet into a controlled object. Not with radio calls, not with open threats. With geometry, pressure, timing, one fighter forward and left. One fighter low and right. Force a correction. Pull the American pilot out of his lane. Make him fly their intercept instead of his patrol. For a few minutes, it nearly worked. Not because the Hornet was weak, not because the Tomcats were better, but because even older aircraft can become dangerous when they are flown with intent inside tight airspace over narrow water. Raven 1, Magic. Lead contact now 40 miles and opening. Trailer contact slowing, but continuing north. The pilot listens without speaking for a second. Then he answers. Copy all. That is enough. No celebration. No victory speech. No one in U.S. Navy aviation mistakes a withdrawal for a final win. The standard is simpler than that. Did the aircraft stay safe? Did the mission remain intact? Did the pilot keep control of himself, his jet, and the escalation ladder? Yes, that is the win. Behind him and above, Sabre Flight remains in position. One high, one offset, visible on the tactical display like a second layer of judgment. They arrived at the exact moment when presence mattered more than motion. They did not need to launch anything. They did not need to force the scene. They only had to be there. And the entire intercept changed shape. That, more than anything, is what held the line over Hormuz. Not noise, not theater, not bravado, system, discipline, timing. The pilot glances left through the canopy, nothing but blue distance. The lead Tomcat is now gone from visual range. The second is only a fading track on the display. Minutes earlier, those same two aircraft had compressed the sky around him so tightly that every move risked giving them the picture they wanted. Now they are moving away, and the Hornet is still where it was supposed to be. On mission, on course, in control. Magic Raven 1, request confirmation. We're still green on patrol route. Raven 1, affirm, resume as briefed. Resume as briefed. There it is. The simplest sentence imaginable. And inside a cockpit over one of the most tense choke points on the planet, it means everything. Because the American posture has not changed. The route is still the route. International airspace is still international airspace. The intercept happened. It was recorded. It came close. It became dangerous. But it did not push the Navy jet off its line. That is what the Tomcats failed to take. The pilot steadies the aircraft and looks back down at the water. Hormuz narrows between two coastlines that have watched warships, patrol aircraft, and armed escorts pass through for decades. The sea lane is tight. The politics around it are even tighter. And somewhere inside that pressure, every pilot who flies here learns the same lesson. In airspace like this, the real contest is not about who acts louder. It is about who stays composed when the margin gets thin. The two Iranian fighters are gone now, but they are not forgotten. Their intercept will be studied. Their timing, their bracket formation, their radar behavior, their final turn away, none of it disappears. That is the quiet power of moments like this. Even when no one crosses the final line, someone still leaves with the advantage. Today, it was the pilot who did not panic. The formation that arrived without overreacting. The side that refused to give up either discipline or airspace. Below, a tanker turns slowly through the shipping lane, dragging a long white wake across the Gulf. Above it, the Super Hornet continues east through clean morning light. Escorted now, watched now, but unshaken. No fireball, no dramatic strike, no headline built on chaos. Just a narrow piece of sky over Hormuz, two Tomcats that pushed too far, and a U.S. Navy jet that held the line. So here is the question. If you were in that cockpit with two fighters closing from both sides over the narrowest water in the Gulf, would you have held course the way he did? Or would you have moved earlier, harder, and risked turning pressure into escalation? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more real-time naval and aerial encounters told minute by minute, subscribe and stay with us. Because out here, the sky does not belong to the loudest pilot. It belongs to the one who keeps flying when the pressure closes in.